Okay, let's continue. Adolescence, 13 through the college years. So that coincides with Piaget's formal operation and Freud's post-latency stage, also called the genital stage. Okay, here at this stage, where's my cursor? At this stage, Freud mentioned that all the previous elements in oral, anal, and especially the phallic stage are brought back into play and reworked into an adult personality. All right, so let's take a look at this stage here. Now, the identity, this is what? This is the question of what? Who am I? Okay, so if the teenager could answer this question, then what? The identity formation versus diffusion, role confusion. I don't know, who am I don't know what I want to do, that type of thing, right? Then what? The resolution of these two polar opposites will be called what? Fidelity. Okay, the formation of adult character through the working of self-identity. This is one of the most Erickson's most famous contributions. Okay, and also what is called the identity crisis at this stage here. All right, so here what the an attempt to answer who am I and achieve a satisfying sense of identity based on personal success and satisfaction, combined with, of course, peer acceptance because of what? Because of negativity. Is that right? Negativism. At this stage, the second stage was rebellion. Second stage, negativism. So peers are considered to be far more important than what? Parents. Now, Piaget's formal operational, that is to say, the adolescent now is able to develop formal thought. So an adolescent begins to think about self and identity. They can perform the following operations according to Piaget, according to different psychologists. Okay. At this stage, they can differentiate feelings and emotions in self and others. Because of formal operation, they can generate hypotheses. They also can generate perspectives based on other people, right? Distinguish between objective and subjective reality. They know that. Adopt the perspective of another person. That is the beginning of empathy, right? Because of perspectivistic thought. Okay, so we will talk about empathy. And remember, empathy is one of the pillars in Daniel Goleman's emotional intelligence. All right, then understand symbolic meaning and role play as if situation. That's to say, because of the ability to form ability to form hypothesis, and then they could solve a lot of problems without having to act out. Right? That is formal operation. Now, at this point here, identity is the main issue. All right, that is the main issue. the organization of the individual's drives, abilities, beliefs, and history, past history, into a consistent image of the self. Now, remember during a make-believe play, okay, the child wants to be a doctor, a lawyer, a truck driver, a fireman, that type of thing. Now is the time to take steps toward achieving that. Okay? So here is the formation of identity. So all in all, this is an attempt to answer, who am I? Okay, who am I? So the formation of adult character through the working of self-identity. Okay, all right. James Marshall's 4 alternatives for adolescence. So let's take a look at these famous 4 alternatives here. All right. The 4 alternatives for adolescents as they confront themselves and their choices, okay? Whoever they want to become. So 4 stages. Let's see. Identity achievement. After considering the realistic options, okay, and all the past role play, all the past thinking, the individual adolescent has made choices and is pursuing them. Okay, I want to become a scientist. Therefore, I'm now I aim to study hard to go to university, get a degree, and become a scientist. That is ID formation. Is that right? That's what ID achievement. Yes, good. ID foreclosure. That's the opposite of number 1. All right. So here, ID foreclosure, those who do not experiment with different identities or consider a range of options, but simply commit themselves to the goals, values, and lifestyles of their parents or of other significant authority figures. Right? So that is to say, remember a lot of students are saying, "Oh, my dad wants me to become an engineer." Eh? That is not good. Now let me relate to you how I dealt with this with my elder boy. Okay, and my elder boy, knowing that his father is a professor, so he studied hard. Okay, he was in U of T, University of Toronto Engineering first year. But I knew in his heart he wanted to become a musician because from a very, very young age, I could see his music talent, the talent in him. He could play many musical instruments. Okay, without having to go to school, he would just pick up the guitar, and then he could play. All right, that talent. Okay, that music talent. I think he's lucky in a way. He's born with it. Okay, he's born with it, and he's very good at piano. And of course, Peter Chow is biased. Peter Chow is a very serious academic, so naturally, I wished at that time for my kids to become an academic, much better than the father. That's my hope. Okay, that's my hope. So, but then one day, he accompanied his best friend to go to an audition at York University. His best friend wanted to get into York University, Toronto York University music program, and we know that York is very good in his music program. Very difficult to get in. So my elder boy, he only played the keyboard for his friend. okay, in the audition. However, after the audition, 3 professors bypassed his friend and approached my boy. They said, "Wow, you played really well. Okay, what are you doing now?" I said, "Oh, engineering. Would you like to to join our music department? Okay, we welcome you." You know what he said? My other boy, he said, "Oh no, my father would definitely kill me." And I said, "Who's your father?" "Oh, my father is a professor at that time. I was in Alberta. Okay, my father is a professor in psychology. He would kill me." But I killed him anyway. Anyway, so he kind of rejected out of hand. But then after he returned home, he received 3 emails from these 3 professors. They said, "Come, join us. We give you $10,000 scholarship per year." So he was overjoyed because his heart was with music, and his heart is still with music. Anyway, so he talked to me that don't get mad. That was his first utterance. Don't get mad. I wanted to abandon engineering. I wanted to go to New York to join the music program. And then at that time, I realized now Peter Chow all of a sudden turned very smart, okay? And I told him that, my son, it's your future, it's not mine, okay? As long as you think you could become a better person by joining the York's music department, and you derive joy, happiness, and satisfaction through this route. You do that. Don't worry about the old man. Okay? You do that. Okay? And he was, oh my goodness. I had never seen him so happy, so satisfied, and he was vibrant, okay, at that time, and I was happy for him. And honestly, I was happy for myself having made such a good decision. All right, so he went through the program without any difficulty because he was very talented. Okay, and of course he now his base is in Taiwan. Okay, and he's now a well-known music songwriter, music arrangement, as well as a famous producer. Okay, and that's in the Far East. Okay, anyway, so that's my personal story about my older boy. He obtained this here. He arrived at a decision, and he had he achieved identity achievement instead of foreclosure. Had he followed my aspiration, he would be sorry. He wouldn't be happy. Well, perhaps he would become a very famous engineer, but then he would be here, okay, very unhappy with his life. All right. Now, so here is do not follow what other people expect of you. You should know best who you are, what you want to become. Okay, happiness at long last is not money. It's your happiness, your satisfaction with life. Okay, we will come to this later on, later in the course. Okay? I did the fusion. This one even worse. Okay, worse than foreclosure. Individual, the adolescent, reaches no conclusions about who they are or what they want to do with their life They have no firm direction. What do you want to become? I don't know. What do you want to do for your life? I have no idea. That type of thing. Okay, that is the worst case scenario according to James Marsh and of course according to Erickson. Now, another say the last one is moratorium. Okay, this is called an identity crisis. Because of the struggle, the teenager says, I'm not sure whether this is the kind of thing I like to do. I cannot make a decision, but I'm not giving up, but I want to wait. I want to wait until I have more advice, until I know more about myself. I will make a decision to achieve what this. Okay? So this is what identity formation. This is what Erickson's very Erickson emphasized this very he thought it was very important for our development. As a matter of fact, for our lifespan development. All right. So take a look here. The critical issue of this stage is to resolve. To resolve the crisis of personal identity, build upon one outcome of what previous crisis. So here, the critical issue of this stage is to resolve the crisis of personal identity. Okay? Our definition of self, how we see ourselves, and how others see us. And all this here form the foundation of our adult personality. Now, if that foundation is firm and strong, a solid personal identity results. If it is not, then the consequence is what? Diffuse identity, something without roots, without history, right? So you see here, our definition of self, the emotional components of previous images one has as a growing child. Okay, I want to become this, I want to become that. Okay, that certainly here will what? Will influence how we integrate what? In the integration of a new definition of self, the formation of a definition of self, and what this one here, we need confirmation by adult society, peer acceptance, confirmation by adult society, so that we won't become say I want to become a thief, certainly you won't go through this here. So we still need this, okay, in a way, okay. So it is good for adults to understand our children, so that we could provide the support, okay, support and acceptance. All right, here, the specific strength that emerges from this resolution is called fidelity. Right? So this is here, fidelity, the formation of adult character or adult personality through the working of self-identity, right? So it is an identity crisis, is that right? Identity is everything at this stage. Now, early adolescence, I'm going to tell you two interesting observations. Early adolescence is characterized by egocentrism, accompanied by excessive self-consciousness. You may ask, well, why? Well, because what? The world is no longer viewed as permanent and unchanging. Okay, versus remember object permanence, but rather as relative and subjective. So accordingly, the teenager may begin to perceive what themselves as the center of the universe. The result of what of this is that what the teenager is unusually conforming to the crowd. And that's why what they they conform to their peers rather than to their parents. Right? Right? Now, Elkind, a very famous psychologist after Piaget, he noted that adolescent self-concept can be described along two basic dimensions of egocentric thinking. Okay? The first one is called the personal fable, okay? Highly subjective, okay? A deep-rooted belief in one's own personal uniqueness. For example, no one in the world could possibly endure the pain I just went through. That type of thing. But then, to retain this image, an adolescent may create a personal fable, a story which he tells himself and others, and which is not true. But then what? That the adolescent will relate this story again and again. So this is called the personal fable. Second, a second observation is called the imaginary audience. The belief that the world is focusing its attention on the behavior of the adolescent because the adolescent thinks that they are the center of the universe, and therefore all eyes are on them. So then, to the extent that they are very fussy about what to wear, fussy about hairstyle, the kind of shoes they wear, and so meticulous about their appearances, that type of thing, right? That type of thing. Have you watched the movie by John Travolta, Saturday Night Fever? Okay, songs by the Bee Gees. Okay. I love that movie. I love all these songs. I love the Bee Gees anyway. Anyway, remember one segment of the movie, John Travolta is having dinner with his family, but he was already well dressed for the party. He put on the I think it is a bed sheet, bed cover, covering himself except his head during the dinner. Remember that scene? So that is something like this here. Okay, they're very fussy about what they wear. Okay, because the entire world is watching how one walks with grace. Okay, how one behaves, that type of thing. All right. So that is the two observations, right? Imagine the personal fable and the imaginary audience. Okay. All right. Young adulthood. Most of you are at this stage, okay? And I have always suggested to my classes, okay, at your age, there are only two things you need to pay attention to at your age, okay? And for most of you too, okay? Two things you need to do. First, study. You study mightily hard because your brain is plastic. Plastic means what? Means what is the term I want to use? Is fashionable. You can change it. Okay, that means you can take in information. Now, every time you take in information, you have more synapses, you have more connections. Okay, like neurons, they are connected, they're more organized. Okay, so you become wiser. Okay, but then at this point, as you will see later on, or towards the end of this lecture, okay, you realize that your brain is growing. Okay, you can absorb like a sponge. Okay, so the first thing I advise you is to study Maitri heart. That is the first thing you need to pay to pay full attention to. The second one is to reach out and touch our heart. I use singular, our heart, not many hearts. Okay, so here you do that, and you will be very happy. Okay, now people may say, well, Peter, what if I reach out, touch your heart, and I got rejected? Well, isn't that what? Isn't that good that you have taken the initiative to reach out, touch your heart, even though people turn you down? Okay? Then what? Then the good thing is that you have loved. All right, you don't give it up and you try again. Reach out in another direction, or reach out to touch another heart. Okay, once you bring a balance to your mood, okay, you reach out to touch another heart. Is that right? So the worst case scenario you fail, but you have loved. So it's very positive. Is that right? It's excellent, positive. Anyway, let's take a look at here. Intimacy versus isolation. You reach out, you touch a heart, and you are rejected, and you never do that again. You result in isolation. Okay? Now, intimacy, your ability to relate intimately with another person based on not possession. You don't do that. Based on self-disclosure, based on openness and commitments to the other person in deepening relationship, okay, emotionally, financially, sexually, and morally. Okay, so these are the conditions for successfully reaching out. Okay, you will have to form relationships. Okay, and then how? Emotionally, financially, sexually, morally. Right? So you will have to work on it. All right, you have to work on it. The consequences of the other's attempts at reaching out to reaching out to touch a heart or to make contact with others may result in intimacy. That is a commitment. So that commitment must be multi-dimensional. Is that right? I just mentioned emotionally, financially, sexually, morally. Right? So that's important. Failure to reach out results in isolation from close personal relationships. Okay, that's not good, is that right? That's not what we are meant to live. Not this way. Okay, so this young adulthood. Okay, middle age here. Generativity versus self-absorption. Now, here, the pull of these two poles results in care. What is care? the act of caring extended beyond a single person to future generations based on a satisfying personal life and freedom from self-preoccupying pressures. Remember here, isolation will end up with what? Will end up with what? Self-preoccupation. Okay, so that's not what? That's not very good. So that's self-absorption. Is that right? Now, so generativity. Here, one's life experiences may extend the focus of an individual's concern beyond oneself to one's family, society, or future generations. So that is to say, here, you are well established, you have experience. You also have experienced what the hardships of life and the fulfillment of life. Okay? You are what? You have been weathered. Okay? You know life. So now is the time here to what? To extend your helping hand. And then what? Here, you what? You reach out your hand and you pull up what? Pull up an individual who is suffering. Pull this individual up. Okay? It is very easy for you so that what? You save this miserable soul. Is that right? So here, people at this level tend to give. Okay? Remember Peter Child's what? At the end of the email, it is in giving that we receive. Okay? It is what? Try to be generous. Try to help what? The future generation. Try to be less preoccupied. Okay? Self-absorption, a person becomes concerned with only their own material and physical well-being. Okay? That's self-absorption. Okay? So the resolution of these two poles is called what? Care. Okay? Old age, integrity versus despair. Now here, the old age, consolidation of identity, consolidated sense of fulfillment, acceptance of death. These are the issues at hand. Now, E1, integrity. One looks back on what it has been all about and ahead to the unknown territory of death. As a consequence of the resolution or the solution developed at each of the preceding stages, the individual can enjoy fulfillment of their life with a sense of integrity. Okay? You look back with a sense of integrity. Okay? Therefore, when you look forward, you are not afraid of death. So this is what wisdom, right? Despair, one who finds that their life has been unsatisfying and misdirected. That's terrible, isn't it? Too late either to look back in anger or ahead with hope. The life cycle of such a person ends with the whimper of despair. Right? So that is what here Erickson calls the resolution of these two pools. Wisdom, of course, wisdom resides in what? People here and not here. Is that right? And not here. So it is what? It is therefore what it is important that what? That we come to good resolutions of all the stages, okay, all the stages, so that what? So that towards the end, right here from sensory motor 32 years, okay, all the way to the end, right? And what? Let me give you this, okay? Now, before we do that, so you see an idea here, Erickson. This is called the lifespan developmental psychology. Okay, at each stage here, we have to deal with what two polar opposite poles. Okay, and we will what find ways to what to go to the better side of the what of the what the better end, of this polar opposite poles. Okay, so that what so that we gain what say here love, we care about other people, we gain wisdom. Let's take a look at comparing Erickson and Piaget stages. I think I've mentioned this all along, but let's take a look here, okay? Sensory motor, at that time was here, we rely on our senses to what? To amass intelligence. So trust versus mistrust. So that is what very important, because what this is what now you see here, this what all these here are the major foundations upon which the rest of them rest. All right? Okay, so it is important, therefore, what we should pay attention to what, say, according to what Piaget and according to Burton White, the first 3 years of life, very important. For Freud, the first 7 years of life, okay, and what else? For Benjamin Bloom, on the basis of what IQ, on the basis of intelligence, okay, by age 5 to 6, okay, 2/3 of our intelligence are already laid. All right, so developmental growth during the first 3 years to 6 years, very, very steep, fast. Okay? So we need to pay a lot of attention during those periods. So that is to say, I personally recommend that the growing child from babyhood to adolescent, the growing or for first 5 years, it is important that a very responsible, loving primary caretaker should stay home and look after the growing baby. Okay, it is very important. Financial how should I say, financial gratification pales in comparison to seeing the kid grow, seeing the kid could do this and that, right? Okay, so pre-operational, here the child is full of fantasy. See here, autonomy versus doubt and initiative. Okay, the child was full of fantasies. The child would like to help, would like to do this and that. But then remember, it is the pre-operational stage. So the child is full of fantasy, full of illogical thinking. Okay? And so let's not move into formal education, concrete operational industry. See, child should be busy. Wow, here a lot of parents, they do understand this. They take the kids to say a swimming class. There are two broad types of parents. One type, they stay there and then they watch the kids swim. And from time to time, when the kid could make it, say number one in the contest, the kid will certainly search the windows, look at, try to find the parents. And then if they could do that, and the parents would wave back, oh, good, you're good. Well, this is the dose of confidence to the kid, is that right? So this is the first type of parent. The second time, they gather together, parents gather together, they go out to Tim Horton to have a cup of coffee and wait for what? Wait for the swimming lesson to end. Then they come back and what? Pick up the kids. When the kids look back, where's my parents? Where are they? Holy cow, where are they? Couldn't find their mother. Imagine these two scenarios. You understand what I'm trying to say, is that right? So it is important that to be with the kids all the time, to show support, to give them confidence. That's important for what? For self-identity later on, formal operational. Child is capable of abstract thinking, capable of perspectivistic thought, empathy from here for what? And all these, right? Good. Now, look at comparison between Freud. Now, notice that one. Erikson is a loyal follower of Freud. Even though one, all those ideas came from him and only him, he attributed that one to Freud. Oh my one, my teacher. He is exceedingly humble. This person, what a nice person. Okay, very, very humble. Carl Rogers is a very, very kind therapist. He is also a therapist, okay, but then he is so loyal, okay. According to Freud, personality development is established one primarily during the first 7 years of life and through libido powers. Anyway, it is seen as continuous throughout all stages of life, and hence what this is called what? His theory is called psychosocial. Okay, because through the interaction of the child with what? With the surrounding community, okay, parents, okay, friends, peers, and this is what a lifespan, developmental psychology. Libido, sex drive, powers development in each stage. No, not stages, in each stage. Here, or in all stages, here, new level of social interaction is required at each stage. Is that right? You interact first with parents, with primary caretakers, later on with what? With friends, with peers, and later on you reach out, you touch your heart intimately, okay, and then what? Further on, you interact with people you could help. Right? That type of thing. So it is through social interaction. Sexual gratification due to intrinsic biological drive characterizes the stages, hence psychosexual, which is hedonistic in nature. It feels good, right? Hedonism. However, for Erikson, satisfaction in achieving personal and social goals characterizes the stage, hence psychosocial stages. So Erikson's theory goes beyond Freud's work to include what? Parental, suicidal demands on individual, not sex drive, okay? And also the growth of responsibility in the individual. So in this case here, all these here are what based on what? Almost based on heredity, is that right? How strong your libido. Okay? But here it is but based upon what? The individual's initiative to interact with the surrounding community. And then of course, at first, it is what? With people who are blood related, with parents, siblings, and then what? And then with outside of friends, friends, peers, teachers, and then what? Someone you love, you what? You reach out and touch your heart. And then later on, you become older, you help people whom you're not even acquainted with. Is that right? Then you look forward to death without fear, because you look back, you are satisfied with what? With what you have accomplished, what you have achieved. Okay? See here the pole. The two are polar opposite poles. One is positive, one is negative. I hope that you have an idea, like from the perspective of of this here, how do we interpret positive psychology? So here we have origins of positive psychology. All right? Okay. All right. Now, what I want to do here. Okay. All right. Erik Erikson, we call the seasons of our life. So let's take a look at a concluding comments on each stage here. All right. Before we do this here, Erik Erikson suggested the epigenetic principle. Did I put it down here? Anyway, epigenetic principle, the potential for growth already is a given. We need not force a child to grow as a personality. For example, walking is phylogenetic, epigenetic also. Language. Noam Chomsky mentioned that we have a built-in language acquisition mechanism. We are born with it. Okay? We are born with it. If you try to teach a young baby to talk, it is very difficult. And then you don't have to push the baby to talk or to walk for that matter. Epigenetic principle will take over. In another word here, Erikson proposed that personality itself goes through structural elaborations in accord with the map of potential. What is it? Well, that is a ground plan. Okay? And according to the epigenetic principle, within a stage, certain personality development will take place. So that is the idea of epigenetic principle. All right, so let's take a look at Erikson, the seasons of our life, or Erikson's lifespan developmental stages through the ages. Right? Prenatal conception to birth, the brain and the nervous system develop and form an intricate network. But genetic errors and environmental factors like fetal exposure to alcohol or drugs can make this process go awry. Right? So we have to be careful. Right? Infancy, from 0 to 5 years, right? Excess neurons and synapses are pruned in the first 18 months. Pruning, otherwise our thinking will go wild. But the brain keeps growing, reaching 90% of adult size. Brain cells become more adept at communicating. So babies learn to talk. Remember 0 to 5? Now, stage theory means what? Something will emerge. Okay? So this something can best be done during this period. For example, it is a lot easier to learn 10 different languages by the age of 5 to 10. Okay. After that, we could still do that, but then with a lot of difficulty. Here, if what say during infancy and late childhood, okay, if we could expose the child to 10 different languages consistently, the child will pick up 10 languages just like this. You hear that? I'm not very good at snapping my finger. Okay. Anyway, so it is one. It is very important because the certain potentials are available at certain stages. Okay, so it is important for us to realize what those potentials are and at what stages. All right, late childhood, 5 to 10 years, dramatic growth spurt in the temporal and parietal lobes, brain regions crucial to language and understanding of spatial relations. Make this a prime time for learning new languages and the music. Now, imagine here, 5 to 10 years old, it's what is it? Well, starting to go inside with what Piaget's concrete operational. So it is a good idea here is what to learn new skills. Music will enrich our right brain. So far we know. Okay? And then what? Music. It has so many dimensions that we are not even aware of. Now, for example, you must think, most of you must think that the digital music sounds better than vinyl. Vinyl, you know what is vinyl? Vinyl record, you have to put a playing needle on it so that it plays. Now, I can tell you that the needle's movement inside the record, inside the vinyl grooves, okay? It is multi-dimensional that no digital machine at this time, say DVD, Blu-ray, or CD could capture. So I think I mentioned this, all right? If you listen to the same recording through the best CD player or through the best turntable, same system, you realize that digital music, you have missed so much information. Okay? That you can't compare that with what you hear from vinyl record, and therefore you see a revival of vinyl records, right? Okay, good. Puberty, 10 to 13 years, just shy of Piaget's formal operation. Okay, it is just before that, the brain's gray matter thickens, especially in the frontal lobe, the seat of planning, impulse control, and the reasoning. This growth may be triggered by surges of sex hormone. Remember Freud's genital stages, okay, puberty. So the sex hormones begin to manifest themselves. Okay, so here sex hormones will trigger other areas of our body. All right, good. Adolescence, negativism stage 2. Remember that. Okay. Well, the brain begins to shrink. Yes, losing about 2% of the weight and volume in each successive decade. So out 2%, 2%, and then only 2% in a decade. So not bad, okay? Abnormally high loss of gray matter during this period may be a cause of teenage schizophrenia. Right? So it is important, therefore, here we should protect our head. Don't want the head cannot sustain serious injury. Okay. Early adulthood, by the late 20s, information processing begins to slow down. Memory center in the hippocampus and frontal lobes seem most affected. However, this change is not usually noticeable until at least age 60. Right? So that's good. Okay, that's good. Most of you are at your prime age. Prime age, okay, both both mentally and physically. Your brain cells are at the top. Okay, at the top. That means what? They perform the best now. So two things. Remember, study hard, and also because of what? Because of hormonal changes or surges in hormones, sex hormones, you should reach out and touch your heart. In doing these two things, you should be very happy. Middle age here, learning, memory, planning, and other complex mental processes become more difficult. And what reacting to stimuli takes longer, right? So, but then at this time, plaques and tangles may form in certain brain regions. Okay? If we do not pay attention to our diet, okay, it will have severe consequences accumulated through many years. Okay? Finally, old age. What are typical of old age here? Aging, depression, anxiety disorders, and Alzheimer's may alter sleep patterns. The decline in cognitive abilities becomes more pronounced. Coordination and dexterity are also affected. So during old age here, of course, here, our systems are running downhill. But then what? With modern medicines and with new understanding of human development, a lot of old agers, say 90 some years old, 100 years old, they fare pretty well. Is that right? So we should incorporate knowledge from different fields, so that to make aging not a period for suffering. Okay, so it is also important for all of us to realize that whenever possible, we should reach out and help someone at this age group. All right. Okay, so that's what that is what lifespan developmental psychology. Okay, it is very well thought of, very well written. That's Erickson, a famous psychologist, without a PhD. Okay, all right. So that ends that ends this lecture. Thank you.